Are we recording? Yep. Okay. Thank you, Doreen. Welcome everybody to the second public consultation on the 2024 budget. This is the second of two consultations, public consultations that we'll be doing. The first one was a public in-person meeting on January 17th. We're going to start off with after this introduction. First of all, I have to say that the mayor sends her regrets. She's currently on her way to upstate New York, being a hockey mom. We're also missing Amy Martin, Director of Planning. Oh no, she's here.
I'm right here.
Wow, I thought you had childcare tonight, Amy. Anyways, welcome.
We'll show up at some point, I'm sure, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, okay, right. As you can tell, I'm not wearing a jacket, so this is not a council meeting. It's a meeting for the public to ask questions and get answers on the draft budget, which is yet to be approved. So welcome again, everybody. I'm going to pass it over to our CAO, Karen Dunlop, who's not packed, but getting ready to depart for a well-deserved vacation. And she's going to walk us through the budget presentation, after which I'll open the floor up and I'll take speakers. I'll create a speakers list and we'll entertain questions after the presentation. So, Ms. Dunlop, take it away.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So thank you all for attending this presentation of the senior management team's proposed 2024 budget based on strategic planning, expected service levels, master planning documents, asset management requirements, and committee requests. Next slide. The agenda this evening is all-encompassing, as provided on this slide. All senior managers are here this evening to answer your questions or get you answers. We will review the highlights of the operational and capital components of the tax-based services and the user fee-based water and wastewater portion. Next slide. A budget is a strategic and financial plan that provides the direction for the next fiscal year and sometimes beyond. All municipalities must approve a budget in accordance with provincial regulations. Next slide. North Grenville's budget is broken down into tax-based operating and capital and rate-based water and wastewater operating and capital. Both programs identify revenue, values, and sources. Next slide. The budget process began months ago by reviewing trends and commitments by staff, looking at service levels and goals. Senior managers have provided this document for council's review, and following public engagement, will revisit and consider the projects and operational service levels, including in this draft budget and the proposed municipal tax increase. Next slide. Strategically, we incorporate growth, services, economic development, business needs, environmental, community, and service delivery expectations in this slide. In this budget. Next slide. I think I missed a slide. So strategically, we do incorporate, don't go back, it's fine. And next slide. The next 8 slides are departmental 2023 highlights and 2024 goals. Each director will be speaking briefly to their operational division, starting with Public Works.
Thank you, Ms. Dunlop. So what we have in front of us at this moment is some 2023 Public Works highlights. That includes the County Road 43 expansion project, the award of the project. Although this is a partnership with United County of Leeds and Grenville, it will be a big focus on, was a big focus to have it awarded, and continues into 2024 when the construction will start. We have a number of sidewalks and road rebuilds that are listed here, as well as the Denison Road Bridge rehabilitation, which did have the bridge closed from August to October of 2023. In terms of the 2024 objectives, again, as we noted, we do have the County Road 43 expansion construction slated to start in spring of this year coming up. We have a few master plans that we are looking to accomplish as well. Again, some gravel rebuilds and some sidewalk construction.
Okay, next up is Parks, Recreation, and Culture. So some of our 2023 Parks and Recreation and Culture highlights. We had the new amenities open at Riverside Park, specifically the outdoor rink and our new accessible change room facility opened in December of this year. We completed some playground work at Crozier Park and Oxford Station Park, as well as installed a new fence and basketball pad at Birch Rapids. And we started the rehabilitation of the Maplewood Hall as well. Some of our objectives for 2024 is the completion of Heron's Nest Park and the Tempo subdivision, start construction on the County Road 44 multi-use pathway extension, opening of the splash pad at Riverside Park, and working on a change of use project for the Armory building. Those are some of the high objectives for Parks Recreation.
Next slide. So the Director of Corporate Services is having a bit of internet issues, so hopefully she can jump in.
Hi,
If not-
Karen, I can't see the slide change, but I think I'm way behind.
Okay, and your highlights for 2023 are up.
Okay, I can't see it's on the slide, but I can share. So the Corporate Services Department does include the IT, clerk, and corporate strategy divisions. So some highlights for coming up this year. For 2023, we had quite a bit on the go. Some highlights included working with the Indigenous Advisory Circle, as well as the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion newly established advisory committees. Next slide, please. And I'm hoping the slide changed, but some highlights we have this year are completing the council chamber upgrades, as well as launching the recently launched NG Transit. So apologies for the delays on the speaking, but I'll leave it there.
Next slide. Chief? Chief, you're muted if you're speaking.
Thank you so much for that. I turned on the camera, but not the voice. I apologize. Some of our 2023 highlights are included the implementation of a chief training officer to accommodate the new provincial legislations that are coming into effect. As well, we completed the 2023 emergency management program for the municipality of North Grenville and sent that to Emergency Management Ontario for compliancy. And we ordered a replacement duty vehicle for the fire service. And we also replaced some aging equipment, including some breathing apparatus for the fire department. Objectives for 2024 is there are a fewer capital projects, asset projects for 2024, but apart from a few carryovers, we're focusing this year on personnel and fire service planning to address our community growth and development here in North Grenville. We're going to be completing studies, risk assessments, and planning for growth and impacts on our fire service. Thank you.
Next slide.
Thank you. So on planning and development, some of our highlights from last year included our population study update, publishing our first housing report card, which annually updates information on housing development in North Grenville, and we successfully hosted our first affordable housing summit in coordination with United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. Our 2024 planning objectives include our official plan update and some community engagement before the official plan process begins, as well as updating our development charges bylaw. Thank you.
Next slide. So under the Office of the CAO in 2023, one of the highlights was the upgraded municipal website. And looking into 2024, we're looking at a communication strategic plan and undertaking a service delivery review. For our economic development, our Matt Gilmer, our Manager of Economic Development, is not with us tonight, but he provided these highlights and goals. In 2023, economic development completed many projects. One for highlighting is the new waterfront strategy. This project was to demonstrate how we can showcase and access the Rideau River better. This project was completed in collaboration with all departments and public engagement. As a goal in 2024, we want to start implementing some of the report's recommendations. Next slide. The new CAO of the library, Emily Farrell, provided a few highlights and goals for the library. In 2023, they completed a Sunday hour pilot, and in 2024, we'll continue with some Sunday hours, January to April, 12 to 4. Next slide. The North Grenville team plans to continue to improve service delivery by reviewing policies and bylaws, update our strategic plan, and multiple master planning documents. Next slide. We plan to continue to digitize municipal records and the building permit process, plus provide for better virtual participation in council and committee meetings. Next slide. We plan to improve our project planning through online management programming, refreshing master plans such as the fire department, transfer station, and emergency management HIRAs, and improve financial reporting, including trending on a more frequent basis. Next slide. The budget is impacted by many different factors: growth, strategic and work plans, public consultations, asset management needs, sustainability, climate change, and inflation. We have all seen the supply chain impact over the last few years, and it has not balanced back out yet. Next slide. The next two slides are the municipality's commitment to investing into our community through the Community Grant Program, Community Support Program, long-term, and healthcare. Next slide. Community development, signature events, and cultural items. Next slide. As provided last year, these are the definitions commonly used in our budget breakdown: salaries and benefits, materials and supplies, insurance, which has seen an almost 10% increase this year, contracted property services, which are items such as utilities, cell phones, repair and maintenance of some assets, including fleet and leased fleet. Next slide. Contracted professional services include items such as IT support, legal, reports and studies, fees and dues, training, conferences, and software. Next slide. The summary of the 2024 proposed operating budget provides for a 3.5% municipal tax increase and will provide an overview of the operational departments in the coming slides. The revenue for the municipal government is primarily through municipal property taxes, although we do receive formula-based grants for certain purposes from higher levels of government, which are embedded within the budget. These grants include the Canada Community Building Fund. Allotment for 2024 is just under $565,000. The Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund provides for $885,000. And the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund will grant us $1,076,300. This, along with the required taxation base of $18.5 million and additional user fees and reserves, plus development charges, make up the revenue to operate the municipality. Next slide. This slide graphically represents the breakdown of our revenue sources. Next slide. The proposed taxation increase for the municipal component of the property tax is 3.5%, which above growth will provide an increase of just over $611,000. Next slide. The municipality also accumulates debt for larger and long-term items. The next two slides demonstrate the current debt and annual payments. Next slide. Including the campus mortgage, which is paid by a reserve fund created in 2018. Council has asked for additional debt information, which will be provided at the budget presentation on February the 20th. Next slide. The property tax rate is three components: education, county, and municipal. There has been no indication of an increase in the educational component. The United Counties of Leeds and Granville is currently going through budget deliberations and provide a proposed rate currently of 6.28% increase, along with the other municipal proposed increase at 3.5%. Next slide. The tax bill does not all go to the municipality. Although we collect the property tax bills at the municipality, we send 12% away for education, 35% to the county, which leaves 53% for residential, front-facing municipal government operations. Next slide. The next 11 slides are departmental operating budgets. I will highlight each department, and any questions can be directed at the end of the meeting to the appropriate department head. Office of the CAO with expenses of $19,790,079, which includes the taxation revenue for all departments. Operationally, this office covers human resources, communication, tourism, and ECDev. Next slide. Finance with expenses of $1,544,663 covers all financial operations, including payroll, front reception operations, budgeting, reporting, payments, and receivables. Next slide. Corporate services with expenses of $1,888,069 covers the clerk's office, IT and software, strategic initiatives, and other incentives such as the CIP program, physician recruitment, and the conservation authorities. Next slide. The building division is a standalone budget based on the building fees that are collected from permits and have expenses of $916,677, which covers the building department operations of all the inspectors, software, and administrative support. Next slide. Council, this is the expense of our elected officials. With an expense of $279,799, this covers the expenses of council as a whole. Next slide. Parks, Recreation, and Culture with expenses of $2,293,354 covers the operation of all the parks, vehicles, staffing, utilities, and service contracts, including the library grant listed as other costs. Next slide. Police expense of $2,327,490 is the contracted price for the OPP. For the 2024 future contract negotiations will be pending following the provincial realignment of the detachment boards. Next, thank you. Emergency and Protective Services, the expenses of $1,493,250 covers all the requirements to operate our fire service and emergency management division. It includes repairs and maintenance and utilities for our fire station, manpower, trucks, and the fire prevention systems. Next slide. Public Works at $8,966,219 in expenses for the tangible things in life. This covers waste management, roads, engineering, drainage, storm systems, North Grenville Transit, snow removal, bridges, and the utilities and fuel to support these services. Next slide. The North Grenville Municipal Center with expenses of $3,167,061 covers the building and arena at 285 County Road 44, the building lease, and all the utilities and staff to support its upkeep and operations. Next slide. And finally, planning and bylaw, with expenses of $1,414,534 covers off all personnel and operations for the planning functions for growth and existing rate players, plus bylaw, animal control, and enforcement. Next slide. Our North Grenville Public Library, with total expenses of $629,777, with $533,533 coming from municipal grant. Next slide. This completes operations. Now we move into capital. Next slide. The capital overview provides total expected expenses of $7,873,693, which is broken down by category. Next slide. And by funding. Next slide. Each department director will highlight a project or two over the next 4 slides and be available for questions at the end. We start with Public Works.
Thank you, Ms. Dunlop. So the following list is the capital budget for proposed capital budget for Public Works. Again, we do note the County Road 43 expansion as a large item here. This is the non-water and wastewater portion. We do have a number of sidewalks, MUPs, multi-use pathways, as well as road and bridges projects listed here. And I can pass it to the next slide.
Director Guy?
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you, Karen and Mike. Some of the Parks and Recreation and Culture projects for 2024 is completing the multi-use pathway at Riverside Park, as well as the County Road 44 multi-use pathway extension, the Heron's Nest Park at Tempo, as I mentioned earlier. We've got some small accessibility upgrades that we want to do at the Pavilion in South Gore. And we've got some improvements to make to the parking lot at Riverside Park as well.
Next slide.
Continuing with Parks and Recreation, we will be looking to replace one of our ice resurfacers here at the North Grenville Municipal Center. We've got some tables and chairs replacement, some new speakers for the Urbandale Arts Center. As well as completing the repairs to the Maplewood Hall, specifically the roof, and also replacing some of the lights within the library as well.
Next slide. Chief Oakham?
Thank you very much. As I noted earlier, 2024, there are fewer capital asset projects for the year. However, we do have a few. I will touch on those. We will be replacing under our 10-year replacement program personal protective equipment. This is equipment for our firefighters to perform their duties and responsibilities. As well, we'll be replacing some firefighting tools and equipment. This is various equipment, including fire hose and other tools and equipment on fire apparatus. And as well, we'll be replacing an aged and out of service ventilation fan, be replacing it with newer technology with an electric positive pressure ventilation fan. And that's all for EPS. Thank you.
Next slide. So the water and wastewater budget is by regulation separate and sustainable. Rates are set based on the sustainable needs of the system in order to remain in compliance with all regulations. Director Finlay will go over the next few slides on the operational and capital workings of this division. Next slide.
Thank you again, Ms. Dunlop. Again, some 2023 highlights from the Water and Wastewater Division. We did complete the tender for the Water Pollution Control Plant expansion. We did also complete the water main replacement on Concession Road. In regards to the 2024 objectives, we are looking to update our servicing master plan, which was last completed in 2015. We have a number of maintenance items such as leak detection, inflow and infiltration, some HVAC replacement, as well as some pump isolation valve at the pump station, colonnade pump station. Next slide, please. So this slide just gives a demonstration on the average residential consumption. We do note back in 2020 when our rate study was approved, which identified the rates required to sustain the water and wastewater division. It was based on an estimation of an average annual consumption for a single residential unit at 143 cubic meters per year, or just under 12 cubic meters of water per month. We did note in the 2023 average consumption, we were basically on par with that assumption at about 11.45 cubic meters of water used per month. So it just gives the indication that we are meeting what our rate study had indicated. Next slide, please. This slide just provides the expenses that are going to see through the water and wastewater division. Because it is separate from taxation, it is only covered through utility rates or water bill recovery. Next slide, please. Again, we just demonstrate this again of the pictorial graph of where the expenses are coming from. I do want to note that we are not proposing a rate increase. The water and wastewater rates are proposed to remain as they currently are for the 2024 budget. Next slide, please. This slide shows the debt that is currently being paid through the water and wastewater division. We have a couple of projects on the list here. Next slide, please. And as we'll be explaining a little bit more detail on the next slide, this gives the capital costs and funding locations for the capital costs of the water and wastewater division. Again, noting that it doesn't come, the payments do not come from taxation. Next slide, please. So we have a number of capital projects listed for the water and wastewater division. Some highlights for the wastewater side is, again, the water pollution control plant. We are looking for the first phase of that expansion. We do include both on the water and wastewater side, the County Road 43 expansion. So these include the components that are solely dealt with water and wastewater. We also have some inflow and infiltration improvements. So that's to help improve capacity of our existing pipes and at our treatment plant. On the water side, we are showing various number of projects, some water looping to improve efficiencies in the system, as well as a number of maintenance replacement parts, pumps, hydrants, items like that. Next slide, please. I think that's all we have.
Back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Great, thank you, Ms. Dunlop. Now we're in a position to entertain questions from the public. Maybe Ms. Dunlop, you can help direct the question to the appropriate department in case people aren't sure of who to direct the question to. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you're participating in this virtual meeting, just make sure that you are identified because it is being recorded. So to do that, you go up to the top. Oh no, actually you look down at the bottom, you'll see participants. You find yourself under participants, click on your name and you get an opportunity to rename so that we're not looking at Nana's iPad, but we're actually looking at who you are. So we'd appreciate that. Also, if things get a little confusing, at the very bottom as well, you'll see reactions. You can raise your hand. So as we have 3 participants from the public, I think I'll open the floor to Gareth Jones. Gareth, if you'd like to lob some questions our way, I'm sure staff will be able to field them. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you. Sorry. I have no questions just yet. I might come back to you if you could, please.
Absolutely. Next in line, according to my screen, is Mr. Johnson. Darren.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor, but I think like Gareth, I'm going to pass for now. The presentation was informative. It was a bit fast. I was having a little trouble following some of it, but I may have a question afterwards.
Great, that's fine. I'm going to queue up Ms. Mitchell. But before you go ahead, Shelley, with your question, I'll just remind people that this is the second consultation. The first one is already up on our YouTube channel. You can play that through. We didn't have a lot of public participation, but council got their licks in with some questions to staff as well. And I believe if you go online, you should be able to download the presentation to take, so you could look at it on your own time. So I see Gareth is ready for a question. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
You've actually answered one of my questions, and that's about obtaining a copy of the presentation tonight. And further on that, I'm wondering if there's a way to get a further level of detail in the budget. I'm not sure if there's more detail. As an example, talks about talking about projects here, not the budget, but in the budget, details the council expenditure. It's there for council as a whole. Is there any way to get a more detailed breakdown?
Karen, who should I toss that question to?
I can take that.
Okay, great.
We do have the summary of further breakdown that we can provide. I believe it is on the website, but I need to double check that. If you can contact the clerk's office, we can make sure you get a copy.
Thank you. That's quite helpful. I'll do so. And this is just a small detail question, but I noticed you have a couple of proposals for going forward for Sunday hours for the library. And I'm just wondering, I think there's an expansion of hours till April, I believe, and then a further possibility of May to October. I'm wondering what the long-term route there is, i.e., are you possibly looking at full-time Sunday openings?
I cannot speak on behalf of the library as it is governed by the library board, and it is a request of a grant annually to the municipality, but we can take that question back and get you a response, as well as include it in the presentation to council on February the 20th.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so Gareth, if you go to the chat section, our clerk has just provided you with a direct link that you can grab the budget or the more detail on the budget. And if you email clerk@northgrenville.on.ca, she'll have your email address and she can get more information to you that way.
That's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay. Great. So, Ms. Mitchell, I understand that Mr. Johnson is yielding his space to you. So go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I have a question on behalf of the BIA Board of Management. In November, we submitted some budget requests, and I'm wondering if the staff have had a chance to review them, and if so, what are the results of the request? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can answer that. So there were, we do have a letter from the Old Town BIA in regards to multiple items. So I will, Shelley, if you don't mind, I'll just do them one by one. So the first one was in regards to signage to implement the recommendations of the parking study to develop a communication plan to increase awareness and understanding of parking availability. So the Director of Corporate Services has included an allotment in the 2024 budget to start implementing the recommendations of that study. The next one was in regards to pathways, to provide incentives for developers to create a pathway or pathways from Riverside Park to Prescott Street. The Director of Planning has been actually considering this for a few years. As we get developers coming forward with plans, we are trying to create those connections, and hopefully within the next year, we do have that one developer that will provide our first connection to Riverside Park and the parking at Riverside Park. The next was in regards to waterfront. This was a request for a seasonal cleanup of garbage in the basin, as well as trimming of some vegetation, and a more detailed proposal for improvements of the waterfront, which may include a fountain and floating portable stage. So in the 2024 budget, we will look at some doing the trimming and the cleanup in regards to at the base of that concrete retaining wall. And moving forward, and in the 2024 season, the Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture will look at the feasibility and cost of installing a fountain in that area. That will take probably some biological studies and coordination with the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, but we will be prepared for future years. General maintenance and beautification to increase the tempo of weeding and maintenance of sidewalks. So this will be referred to the Public Works Department for an increased frequency. As you may know, we weed whip prior to the opening of the businesses by the Public Works Department. So this is something that is done in-house. The Director of Public Works will look at an increased frequency based on operational possibility. And the other is on that specific line was to include additional funding for hanging baskets in 2024. So the Director of Parks, Rec and Culture will work with the BIA in regards to the hanging baskets and flowers, as well as the types of flowers that are in those. So that will be something that the Parks and Recs Department will reach out in the short term to the BIA. Water stations. We are looking at the potential of adding a water bottle filling station at the library. It came up at the SMT a little while ago about potentially putting one just inside the library. They do have a fountain, but they don't have a water bottle filling station. So that may be something that we can incorporate into 2024. But long term, the idea of exploring permanent outdoor water stations are a higher cost, and we have not included any allotment in 2024. We'll do some research. And the last one is a bigger ask, the banner frame. So this is to explore options and funding for the placement of 2 large street-wide banners, one at the south end and the other at the north end of the downtown commercial area. The idea of putting that will take an engineering design as well as the installation and coordination through the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. So Matt Gilmer from the Economic Development, as well as the Director of Public Works from North Grenville, but also from the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, will look into this in 2024. I know that a consideration was completed probably over a decade ago, but we need to refresh that and take a look at what our options are. So that completes the list, Shelley. And do you have questions?
No, I think that's helpful for now. I've taken some notes and I may go back and re-listen to what you said because I understand it's being taped. And if I have further questions, I'll direct them. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
We do have time for follow-up questions, excuse me. But in the meantime, I understand that Councillor Wilson might have some information for Gareth regarding the library budget. So Councillor Wilson, do you have anything you can share?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Barclay. I do sit on the board. The library budget has been passed and there are no extended hours at this point. If they were to receive more money towards their funding, then in the future there would be. Actually, the library hours are down based on pre-COVID, and as are the numbers. So they're looking at, once their numbers they see their numbers start to increase, then they'll possibly start to increase their hours. And that in turn, that will mean they will need more dollars in their budget to staff. So that's all I can share at this point.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Gareth?
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else, Gareth?
I was wondering if anyone could expand on the EDI strategy that was mentioned early in the presentation.
Okay. what's your question?
I'm just wondering if someone can expand on the approach. There's a mention of it, but I don't really, like, I understand what EDI is, but what I don't understand is what the municipality's approach is. And maybe that's too broad a question for this.
I'll toss it to Ms. Chanot if she wants to give sort of an overview.
Sure.
Well, I guess-
Thank you, Gareth. Question. So starting in the spring of 2023, we did work with a facilitator and did some community engagement with equity seeking groups in the community and drafted a strategy with some suggestions for how the municipality could move forward through an equity lens. At that time, we didn't have an equity, diversity, and inclusion advisory committee in place. So council did establish that later in the year, and the group did just get started at the very end of 2023, early 2024. So they are working on reviewing the strategy and putting their work plan into the strategy with the hopes of bringing it to council in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you. And more information can be found online under projects. Is that correct, Ms. Chanot?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a great point. We do have kind of a timeline of what happened during the engagement process under the project section on the website.
Great. Thank you. Well, I keep muting myself. I don't know why I do that. Now that you've had a chance to listen to the response from the CEO, I wondered if Mr. Johnson wants to weigh in on anything he's heard. I know Ms. Mitchell is going to review it and maybe get back to us about certain items, but Darren, you've got the floor.
Well, aside from some abject groveling about some of the requests on behalf of the BIA, I know that the framework for the banners was something we were really hoping for, and partially because because of the expansion or the widening of County Road 43 and the placement potentially of both of these frameworks, the BIA was really hoping that council and staff would see the value in the sense that with sort of the unknown about where the traffic may go from 43 to avoid the construction, that we felt that framework could really help us drive traffic to the downtown. Because one of our concerns is, in everybody's effort to avoid the construction on 43, that they may take a route that takes them past the downtown or circumvents the downtown, so they don't drive down Prescott Street and see all that downtown has to offer. So sort of really was hoping to hear something a little different about the framework, or that the municipality plans to buy a lottery ticket now and again just to beef up some of that extra spending. But was it's unfortunate, but like I said, I was really hoping that would be something that would stick for this budget.
Fair enough, Mr. Johnson. I mean, we always live in hope of tripping over a big bundle of cash between now and February 20th, and who knows. But for now, I just in terms of 43, it's unfortunate that Mr. Gilmer isn't here, but as you know, I've been trying to pass over or have the municipality take over the responsibility for the BIA signs on 43. So that may be in the interim a solution to redo or rehabilitate those two signs, eastbound and westbound on 43, to freshen the idea in people's minds that maybe downtown is something they should visit. But anyways, that's another discussion. And this is a public consultation. This is not a conversation with council. So I'm sure we'll be having that offline. I wonder if there's any other questions. And having mentioned,
I did have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is a bit of a hypothetical one, but it is sort of to ask about the potential financial capacity for North Grenville to host a large-scale national event again. I will not say in the same vein as the IPM, But say something maybe smaller, but still no less significant maybe to our local business community. If okay, I'm trying to get this out here. My apologies. I'm just looking at capacity for funding or a financial contribution to something like that. Is that something that would definitely have to be presented for budget time, say for next year as an example? Or is there some capacity to respond or to sort of on the fly be able to consider something along those lines?
Sounds
I'm
very
sure that's
vague, but
convoluted. Yes.
yeah, but I'm gonna toss that to the CAO, and then afterwards I'll recognize Shelley Mitchell. I noticed that your hand is up, Karen, so did you want to take a stab at that?
That was not the question I put my hand up for. It was
Okay,
actually,
I apologize.
it's okay, but it is actually another question that Darren had referred to earlier. When I did my overview of the letter received from the BIA, the banner frame, so the placement of 2 large street-wide banners, that was not included in this budget. But a few banners for Busker Fest has been included under economic development. So there are the two different asks, and one is a 20,000 plus, one is a less than 1,000. So the one ask in regards to the consideration of some busker banners, the manager of economic development has included some in his budget request.
Okay, thanks for that detail. Back to Darren's question. I think we're always ready, willing, and able to work with the BIA.
Correct.
Yeah. So
the idea of a national event would have to be very specific and come at the budget time, of course. But we are also looking at a community benefit, a program with which we can help and assist the creation of such events, but not to be a constant funder. So if that helps, Darren.
And you know, we on staff, Darren, we have someone who's been quite successful in pulling together, as other staff members have, pulling together successful applications for funding. So if you have something in mind, maybe a conversation with Susan Smith would be appropriate, and she might be able to find that pot of bag of money that you're looking for. Shelley, Ms. Mitchell, you had your hand up, and here's your chance to weigh in.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just going to ask a clarifying question about the water station inside the library. Can I? So, because there is a water fountain in the library, I think what we were asking for is definitely a bit of a bigger project. But with the events happening downtown, even at Riverside, we thought it would be sort of an environmentally friendly component to start looking at. So so the question is, though, is what would we be doing inside the library in terms of a water station?
So that's a 2-part question, Shelley. Actually, at least a 2-part answer. So inside the library, we're looking at a water filling station, water bottle filling station. As part of the Riverside Park improvements, though, there is a water station there.
Okay, perfect. That helps. Thank you.
I guess I have a question on this water station. Maybe it suggested that the library could house it, but is that an outward facing water station? In other words, an outside wall, or is it something that the library would have to be open in order for you to fill up your water bottle?
The library would have to be open. It's within a heated space.
I see.
The one at Riverside Park would also be seasonal. I'm sure Mark or the Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture can answer some additional questions on that station, but again, it will be seasonally based due to the frost cycle.
Mark, did you want to weigh in on that?
Sure. So we have a water filling station at Riverside Park. It was within the pool, but since we've done the new changes, we will be moving it to an exterior wall. So it can be accessed by any users of the park. But it will be a seasonal water station. So we will be installing that in the spring. It'll likely be somewhere in the sort of the breezeway. If you are familiar with the changes we've made over there between the new building and the existing pool building, there will be a water filling station there.
Great. Thanks for that, Mr. Guy. Full disclosure, I sit on the board of the BIA, so I'll with the indulgence from the rest of council, I'll ask another question, and that is consideration of a portable water bottle filling device. I know Campbell Live has one. This is something that could be used during the warmer seasons. That needs to be connected to obviously a water source, but for the kinds of events that the BIA is having down on Prescott Street and Clothier Street, having a portable water bottle filling station, that's hard to say, might be another consideration. But I'll leave it at that because I see the ED of the BIA with his hand up. Go ahead, Darren.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So you beat me to it. I was just going to mention the opportunity to make that water bottle filling station something portable, something that could be moved around to different areas. I know that we have been, for Buskerfest specifically, we have been borrowing the one from Kempful Live, which they're very generously said worked with us on. But I think we're going to come to a point with the festival where because we are looking to get rid of plastic water bottles, I do think it's worth considering an investment in something like that. And I'll say not specifically just for downtown and our events and so on downtown, but something that could potentially be moved and used in different places. So if we do have larger events, or if we do have, baseball tournaments, soccer tournaments, any kind of festival somewhere else within the municipality, that we would have the ability to be mobile with something like that and use that in various places.
Great, thanks for that. Gareth, Shelley, Darren, any other questions? This is your chance to ask on behalf of fellow residents. Seeing none. Your hand was up and then down, Darren. Go ahead.
I'll ask one if we have time.
We have plenty of time.
Okay. All right. With what seems like the more and more larger events that we're hosting here within North Grenville and Kempville as well, is there been any thought to maybe adding some additional Parks, Rec, and Culture staff to be able to support some of these events? I know that Tammy Hurlbert has been a fantastic resource for the BIA, for example, and some of what we do could not be done without Tammy and her contribution. So I was just curious if it was being entertained to maybe add some support there to help out, like I said, the potential for these larger events, and to potentially attract more and have a little more help in that regard.
I can answer that, Deputy Mayor. That has not been included in this 2024 budget. This year, the support from a staffing is through for the fire department from additional inside resources, as well as the human resources department, looking for assistance there. That was on the table, though, Darren. Some assistance for Tammy, as well as for economic development, were things that were put on the table. But I don't think we can come and ask for multiple positions, although we are a growing community and do want to expand that level of service. one step at a time.
Okay. And yeah, I was ECDev too. I was going to put a plug in for economic development. I know Matt is absolutely critical for us and our business community. And I know he does everything he possibly can, but he's only one person. So yeah, that would be great to see that future investment made maybe next year.
It seems, Karen, that we're constantly advertising for positions at the municipality, public works, parks, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, public
Positions-
works and engineering and operational oversight is definitely has a gap as well.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? I'd ask Chloe if were people able to email questions. Is Chloe still with us? Yeah, there she is.
Yep, there were no submissions received that I can see thus far.
Okay, great. That's it then, everybody. Thank you, Gareth, Shelley, and Darren for your questions, and thank you, Karen, for walking us through that presentation. As has been mentioned already, the presentation is available online, or you can email the clerk and she'd be happy to send it to you. This has been recorded and will be uploaded to Facebook. Oh, I see Councillor O'Sullivan has her hand up. This is not a council meeting, Councillor O'Sullivan. I'm not the, but go ahead.
I realize that, Deputy Mayor. I just wondered for clarity for people who are watching, could the CAO give us an idea of how that percentage translates into dollar value for the municipal tax increase that's proposed?
There was a great, there was a great slide, I think, in the presentation that looked at sort of a value of a $400,000 home, although they're few and far between these days. They all seem to be 600 and 700,000, but I don't know what page it was, Karen, but
I'm looking for the page, Deputy Mayor, and the value was $189 for a $400,000 assessment, taking into consideration the education component, the county component, and the municipal component. In your slide, oh, there we go.
oh, yeah, there it is.
For a
Page-
$400,000 value assessment. In the February 20th breakdown, we are also going to provide what that increase is for our 3.5% municipal versus the 189 for all components.
Okay, thank you very much. So this does show the blended increase if the county is at the 6.8%. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a key slide because it sort of has all the information when we start talking to residents that the tax that we collect, we hold on to only 53%. The rest is sent offshore, basically, if you can call the counties offshore, and that the average household increase is $189 per year based on a $400,000 valued property. So with that, thank you, everyone. Once again, I was in the middle of the thank yous, but was able to entertain a question from New Zealand. You're very clear. What's going on in New Zealand? They've got great.
Oh, it's kind of raining a bit today, but
no, I was talking about the connection. It's just crystal clear.
Oh, they're way ahead there. Way ahead.
Okay, all right. We're trying to catch up then. Come back to us with lots of great ideas, Doreen.
Yes, okay. I will.
Okay. All right. With that, I'll wrap it up. Unless there's something else that I should take care of right now, Karen, I think I've directed people to the website and the clerk's email address for people looking for more information. So thank you, everybody.
If I can, Deputy Mayor, just one parting comment is, Gareth, please make sure you reach out to the clerk's office and she will send you the detailed summary.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our last public consultation. Safe driving if you're driving. or safe, whatever you're doing. Be safe. And we'll see you back just before Valentine's Day, Karen.
Yeah,
Have
see
a
you in
great,
10
have a
days.
great time. Yeah.
Thank
Have
you.
a great time. Bye all.
How's the weather there?
Oh, we'll leave